The time is 6:03. I call the June 22nd, 2021 meeting of the Pico Rivera City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Council members, Commissioners Camacho,
Here.
Laura, Lutz,
Here.
Dr. Sanchez,
Here.
Mayor President Elias.
Here. Mayor Pro Tem, can you please lead us in the invocation?
We stand. Heavenly Father, we come before you to welcome you to this meeting. We give you respect and acknowledge you as our creator and provider. It is you who are omnipotent. You are everywhere, Lord. It is you. You have all power. It is you who are omniscient. You know everything. Lord, as we begin this meeting, we ask you that you would guide our thoughts and our actions so that we may have a successful meeting today. Help us to accomplish our goals, and while displaying our character, we pray for these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Councilman Laura, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everyone please take the flag, place your right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. City Manager, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, City Council, we are going to bring up item 21 to the very beginning.
You want to place it right now?
Yes.
Okay.
At this time, I'll turn it over to our Park and Recs Director, Pam Ugard.
Great, thank you, City Manager Carmona. Perfect. Tonight on our agenda, Honorable Mayor and City Council, we have an item for your approval, your review and approval. It's for a mini pitch soccer system project approval. First of all, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to present tonight and for bringing our item early as we have some special guests on our Zoom here this evening. We thought this would be a very exciting opportunity for Pico Rivera, and it's what is called a mini pitch system in partnership with the U.S. Soccer Foundation and Musco Lighting. There's a little bit of history to be told here, but I'm not going to tell the history. I'm going to let the guest speakers at the end tell the history, and I'm just going to tell you where we're at and present day. So on May 27th, we had a special ad hoc meeting that took place with the mayor, council members, city staff, and a resident, and Seattle Sounders MLS player, Christian Roldan. Could you go to the next slide, Gabe? Thank you. You could go to the next slide now, too. So, at this meeting, the goal of this meeting was to actually share the story of this mini pitch. So the mini pitch idea came from U.S. Soccer in a hopes to revitalize dense urban spaces, parking lots, asphalt, turning urban areas into green space or public and park open spaces. So the goal of the meeting was to share the potential partnership, to get in touch with U.S. Soccer Foundation, and after this meeting, we quickly went to work with the U.S. Soccer Foundation to try to research and determine how this would be possible in Pico Rivera. So this is one of the items. This is actually in the city of Gardena, and this is a mini pitch success story. You can see the before and the after, and I'd like to go to the next slide. So this is what it looks like. So before determining if this partnership was doable, staff researched this product model that was showcased in the city of Gardena, like we said before. And if you look at the model, it's a really great way to revitalize underutilized places within a city. So if you can go to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, go back, Gabe, I'm sorry. If you look at the actual mini pitch, it's a module unit. It's placed on asphalt, and it comes with fencing, lighting, goals, and benches, and actually a locker storage, which is really cool. It's similar to like a futsal court, and it's great for 5-on-5 games, trainings, youth leagues, and many more opportunities that would be available with the partnership with U.S. Soccer Foundation. The U.S. Soccer Foundation's Safer Places to Play model has been shown to have an immediate positive impact on any community that they have served. In addition, partnering with U.S. Soccer Foundation, they are a wonderful partner. I've had experience with them, and only good things can come of it for the residents and for the community members and all of the families of Pico Rivera. So there are several different options available to the council tonight. The one in red is the option that we are looking at, and it is, I'm so sorry, I can't see the size. It's 50 by 100. And, okay. So that is the size that we have determined that will fit, and I'd like to show you the next slide, which is the space where we've looked at. So because we wanted to do this fairly quickly, we looked at all the available asphalt space within Pico Rivera, and Pico Park was determined as a viable option, and Smith Park is viable as well. However, we would need to demolish the skate park. So we took these two options to the Parks and Rec Commission a couple of weeks ago, and the commission unanimously voted to bring to your attention and your consideration Pico Park as the site. So if you look at this tonight, this is what Pico Park looks like this morning. And then this would be the futsal, the mini pitch module unit located on the site. Now, this morning we did another site walk, and we determined that if we moved if we moved the mini pitch to the left or to the right, we still could add a basketball court in there. So we could still line it, so we could make it a multi-use space and not just dedicated for one sport. We could have two sports side by side. So tonight, this part is very exciting. The Roldan family have a deep history in Pico Rivera. And tonight with us, we happen to have Kristen Roldan on the line with us. And I'm going to pass it over to him to talk to him so he can talk a little bit about his brothers, his history, why soccer is important to him, and why he wants to bring this mini pitch idea to the city of Pico Rivera.
Hey guys, this is Christian. Thanks so much for having me. Real quick, I just wanted to share my story. I'm extremely thankful to be part of this. I think it'd be an extremely cool process and commitment from the city to continue to try to get younger students, younger soccer players closer to their dreams. And for me specifically, and my family, my older brother's athletic trainer for Galaxy, and my little brother plays with me alongside for Seattle Sounders. And we grew up playing on tennis courts just like these. And instead of having an actual futsal court, we would play against the net, we'd play against the fence. And currently, we don't have too many soccer fields throughout the city of Pico Rivera. Obviously, baseball has dominated, the city's parks in terms of the space. So I think it would be such a cool idea for our family and the city to come together and create this safe place for the younger generation. I think it would not only benefit having these kids in a really safe place, but also being able to bring them professional players that I now am really good friends with, and show them that they're really not that far from us, and give them the hopes and dreams that they can make it, because two kids, from Pico Rivera, just like them, made it to the professional ranking. So, I think this would be a fantastic place, a fantastic idea for our city. And, I'm 100% behind it. I will commit, my time and efforts to create appearances and do little tournaments to make this happen, because what better way to give back to the city that has given me so much with a mini pitch like this. So I thank you so much, really. If you guys have any questions, I will be on the Zoom call, but I will hand it back over so that we can continue talking about all the logistics, as well as, we have Alex, who is part of U.S. Soccer Foundation, that can also add value to this conversation.
Perfect, Christian. That's wonderful. If we could have Alex Bard would like to say a few words to the mayor and council members. Alex Bard is from the director of U.S. Soccer Foundation.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Christian, for your passion. Without Christian bringing this idea to the U.S. Soccer Foundation about 2 to 3 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here today with the promise of this project in front of us. And quickly, just to Pam and her team, Kylie, we really, on my side, we really appreciate the work you've already put in and that you'll continue to put in to make this project happen. It takes champions on the ground, we like to call them, to really push forward. And so I thank you all for that. I'll be brief. I represent a national charitable organization called the U.S. Soccer Foundation. And our goals at the foundation is to improve the lives of children using the sport of soccer. We do that through some of our after-school programming. And we also do that through our field building initiatives, which are these mini pitches. We just recently celebrated our 400th mini pitch being installed in May of 2021. And we have a goal of building 1,000 of these across the country by the time that the United States hosts the World Cup in 2026. So this project, while it is obviously important to the community, is really part of a larger nationwide push to make soccer more accessible to all children, not just to the ones that can afford to play on the private or expensive fields or on the pay-to-play teams. We really want to make this site, like all sites where there is unutilized space, into something that the city can be proud of, and it really represents the community and how they want to use their parks or their schools or wherever we build our mini pitches. So again, we're here to make this happen, kind of with you and for you. But ultimately, we love the fact that this has been a city-driven process and a city-driven project. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have, like Christian said. But this project not only has our full support, but we're the ones who will help make this happen. I think we talked at the latest by year end.
And with that, I leave it to the council to discuss this and possibly vote.
Christian,
Yes, sir.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Christian is one of my old students, and Christian, I'm not going to ask you what you learned from me because the last answer you gave me, embarrassed me. But when you played at El Rancho, did we win state? What was
Yes. Yes, we won state and 2 CIF titles.
I have to say to you, I came from the tradition of football in Pico Rivera, where football was the almighty here. And we have something like about six or seven players throughout its history that played professional. But the soccer situation is one where, we're evolving. And again, it's become the sport that really should be getting the recognition that it should. Obviously, the Roldans are bringing it, but we should actually be more supportive of it because we're very good. We're very good in it. Christian, is there anything that you think the city can do other than this that can help along?
You know what? I haven't thought that far. This goal has been always to make it more accessible for kids, kids that aren't necessarily, at the top ranks, but that want to get better. So in terms of, obviously fields are extremely important. Like I mentioned, a lot of parks have been dominated by baseball. So, we're not asking for a huge amount of space here. But, I thank you so much for even bringing that up because, that's something that I need to put more thought into as well.
Councilman Lutz?
Christian, hi, good evening. This is Councilman Lutz. How are you?
It's great to hear from you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to let you know, growing up here in Pico Rivera, I grew up playing soccer, and I was a forward. And I looked forward to just any opportunity to play soccer whenever I could. I played at Burke after school, and I played at Bernie after school. So this project here is dear to my heart, and I'm glad we reached out to you, and we were able to get this all worked out together as a city, and with the Roldan family. And I also wanted to ask the director of the U.S. Soccer Foundation, Alex Bard, if he can go into detail on what the expenses would be over the 10 years and how that would be covered.
Yes, Councilman, thank you. That's a great question. The good news is that the mini pitch system, which is that the structure with the lights, the goals, the benches, the lockable storage, there is a 10-year warranty on that entire system. So we don't anticipate you needing, at least for the first 10 years, to really have any sort of a budget for maintenance around the lighting. Obviously, LED lighting can be expensive, or any of that steel structure. The acrylic coating on the surface, many of you, especially those of you who work with the Parks Department in your city, likely know that there are no warranties for acrylic surfacing that anyone would offer. We typically recommend a budgeted maintenance number for the surface of about $100 to $500 annually. That money should be spent on power washing and cleaning the surface regularly, so that it has so that the colors will last as long as possible. But we don't anticipate any additional investment needed for, we'd say, at least 3 to 5 years. Beyond that, if the surface starts to wear down, the cost to resurface would be something along the lines of $15,000 to $20,000, depending on how much detail and color you'd want to add. So in the short term, hopefully that's a marginal cost, if anything at all, and longer term, like I said, maybe $20,000 total over a 5 to 10 year span for maintenance.
Thank you, Alex.
Councilman Lara?
First, I want to thank Christian Roldan and the Roldan family for being a fixture in this community, not only moving on into becoming a professional athlete, him and his brothers, but being willing to come back and give back, right? That's, I think, the dream of everybody, and they're realizing it and they're doing it. Thank you very much. Mr. Bard, would you be open to doing another one if the city or maybe the school district could find suitable land for another pitch field?
Absolutely. We love working with communities that are enthusiastic about these projects. Like I said, we've built 400. The goal of 1,000. Y'all can do the math there. We got a bunch left to install. So we love communities that embrace these. The city of Gardenia is a great example. We've actually built 2 with them. They received one from a private donation, and then we quickly built another because they were so excited by the way it impacted that park. So we would love to do that. I can tell you personally that, while the foundation is based on the East Coast, we will certainly be out in your neck of the woods sometime this summer. Would love to meet with some of your team in person, look at additional sites, and explore, that process. So we don't want to keep this to one. We want to keep this to as many sites and pitches as you think would serve the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We'll start doing some research on additional sites. Last week, we had a meeting with the El Rancho Unified School District, and they're open to potentially using some of their unused space, their open land for potential pitch fields. So we'll follow up with that. Thank you very much. And I think the mayor is right. This community is moving. Not only do you have the Roldans, who are professional players, but you also have a young gentleman also from El Rancho who just got hired on with the Galaxy. He's a young soccer player. He went through the El Rancho Unified School District in the high school, and now he plays for Galaxy. So the demographics are changing, and I think we need to be a community that meets that. Thank you.
Councilman Camacho?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Christian, Councilmember Camacho here. I just want to first start by congratulating you and your brothers for your successes and your commitment and dedication to what you do. And as my colleague mentioned, the fact that you are, through your successes still have Pico Rivera in mind and willing to invest and commit, again, that's something to admire and aspire to. So again, congratulations to your successes. And, as was stated, and I recall when we were doing the renovations of our parks, although we created great fields, we definitely did not emphasize on soccer. And it was mainly baseball and football. And I, too, traditionally played baseball and football. And every time I played soccer, I unfortunately either got hurt or hurt someone. So I gave soccer up. But nevertheless, all three of my daughters, that's their sport of choice. And I've gotten through the whole process with them and even to varsity soccer. So I do believe that the interest and the emphasis is there. And although we are in the process of hopefully getting a soccer field at Rio Hondo Park, this proposal and this idea to bring this mini play to us, I think it's great. And I think anything that we can do to increase, we stated before, green space and recreational facilities, this being one of them, so we can provide as many options to the community, this is great. So again, thank you, and thank you, Councilmember Lutz, for bringing this forward as well.
Thank you.
I would just like to say thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Christian, for taking the time to be on today. Congratulations to you and your brother Alex. I want to extend the invitation to you in your free time, which probably is very little. Come back to Pico Rivera. It's very important. I have an 8-year-old son. He's played 2 years of soccer, barely learned which way to kick the ball, and which goal is his. So it's a lot of fun right now, and I think you guys are role models to our Pico Rivera kids, both male and female. And so I want to invite you to come back someday, and in the near future, we can look at our calendars and bring you out to speak to our kids as things are opening up during post-pandemic. So I wish you well, and I thank you so much for your time. I do have a question for possibly the park director or Alex through the U.S. Soccer Foundation. Are there any plans or any programming that comes along with projects and things that are kind of staples with this type of facility?
Alex, do you want to take that?
Yeah, thank you. So the way that we like to offer programming, we like to be very specific and make sure that it's understood that it's an opportunity, but not an expectation of anyone who would be installing a mini pitch, because we know that while we love our own after-school soccer program, it just may not be a fit for every single organization that serves children around the country. So what I can tell you briefly about our programming opportunity, and we can of course take this offline to dive in deeper, is the foundation offers a program called Soccer for Success. It's free for all participants, and it runs 3 days a week with sessions both in the fall and the spring to mimic the school year. We have developed curriculums that are specific to the age groups. We offer the program K through 8th grade, but there are different curriculums based on age. And it's not, I don't mean to say this, especially in front of Christian, it's not just a soccer program. It has 4 pillars or tenets: nutrition education, physical activity, family and community engagement, and that mentorship aspect of a coach. And so all of the curriculum and training that we provide for the local coaches to run the program are based on those 4 core tenets, of course, with soccer being the hook or the activity that we're doing the entire time. So what that could look like for your community is, once we install this mini pitch, maybe starting in the fall, the Parks Department could adopt the Soccer for Success program. You could adopt it at Pico Park. You could adopt it at all of your parks if that's realistic within your kind of capacity. We have many different parks departments, cities, park departments nationwide that we can connect you to learn more about how they run the program. But ultimately, the capacity, the frequency would be up to you all. And again, the foundation, we're able to offer that training for free and the curriculum for you to use. You would be in charge of obviously the staffing, the coaches and providing equipment. And just to give you an idea, we have programming with about 100 different partners nationwide. We run it for about 100,000 children across the country, as small as, groups of 100 or 200 up to, the New York City Parks Department and school district are running programming for about 10,000 children every year. So just to give you an idea of the scope, and we would love to offer you the opportunity to adopt the program, but we want to just always be clear that it's not a prerequisite or any sort of requirement. And we wouldn't think, either way of the city, depending on that decision.
Thank you.
Great. That concludes our presentation, but I did want to let the mayor and council know this was a team effort led by City Manager Carmona and our Assistant City Manager, Catherine Fuentes. And we couldn't have done it without Director Garcia, our Finance Director, and without Director Heredia, our Public Works Director. It was a real team effort to bring this to you tonight. So I just want to thank everybody for helping us. And I'll leave it to you to vote.
I move to approve.
Question?
Oh, I second.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys, and appreciate all the work you guys put into it.
Oh, are we through with?
Yes. Yes, we're
Yes.
with that.
Council, do we have any public hearings?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, yes, we do. We have the first item, public hearing, which is item 1, public hearing to amend fiscal year 2021-22 schedule of fees. Appropriate this time, Mr. Mayor, to open the public hearing. I believe, does staff have a staff report? We're here to address any questions the council may have on this item. So it'd be appropriate to open the public hearing. I don't think there's any written or oral communications. So there is no public testimony. It's appropriate to close the public hearing and bring it back up to the council's level for either questions or action.
No questions?
Move to approve?
Okay. Can we have a motion?
I second.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The second public hearing, Mr. Mayor, is actually under the Water Authority. So under the Water Authority, Mr. Chairman, item number 2 is a public hearing to approve the water rate increases as proposed. Again, it's appropriate to open the public hearing, and have we received any written or oral communications on this item? We do not have any written or oral communications. Staff stands ready to address any questions the City Council may have on this item. If there are no questions or comments, it then comes back to the council level for consideration of approval.
No questions or comments? Mr. City Manager, one comment. Is it necessary?
Absolutely, Mayor.
Could you please explain why?
Yes, early on, we did a water master plan that identified over $117 million in infrastructure needs. These are capital improvement projects to make sure that our water reliability is actually safe and that we can deliver water to our residents in a safe manner. These include projects like our PFAS filtration system, valve upgrades, water wells, piping, and also automatic meter reading capabilities. I also have our director, Monica Heredia, and also staff from our water department ready to answer questions regarding our current infrastructure assessment and as well as our future needs.
I have a question.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I know it's not just the city water, have the other water districts within the city also had to implement a water rate increases as well to address the PFAS and PFOA issues?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, Pico Water District actually increased their rates not too long ago as well.
Thank you.
Councilman Camacho?
Yeah, thank you. I just have a few comments. It's inconsistent with the last meeting we had, and just, I recognize the need for capital improvement projects that are required, the infrastructure improvements that are required. This master plan has exceeded and gone above and beyond detailing all the infrastructure improvements that are needed in the city, as we've been involved with previous ones. But I just have, right now, with COVID and the unprecedented impacts to our families here in the city of Pico Rivera, and seeing some of these families finally getting back on their feet, and seeing that this will take effect July 1st, I just have concerns with being able to increase water rates at this given time. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Lara?
Sure, being a director at a water board, Pico Water, the last item that I was going to take part in at Pico Water was the raising of their water rates. They raised their water rates in December. But I thought that I consulted with our legal counsel and the legal counsel of Pico Water, and at the end of the day, I thought that it was best to resign because I had just been elected to the city. But I have to say that I was supportive of that water rate increase because of the chemical PFAS and PFOA that plagues our water system. These water communities need the added funds to be able to clean that up. There's no other way we're gonna do that. Secondly, there's water pressure issues on the north side that need to be taken care of. We need valve upgrades. I feel that the Pico Rivera Water Authority, no offense to the members of the Pico Rivera Water Authority, but I feel that the infrastructure to some degree is stuck in the 1950s. For example, they actually have someone going out and reading the meter. That's old technology. There's newer technology where it's a radio signal. So you become more efficient. You decrease on your water slippage. Your billing becomes more accurate. You're able to detect leaks from that meter that you normally would not be able to detect. So raising water rates is one of the most difficult things you can do because people are living paycheck to paycheck. But unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's a public health issue, and it's something that I take seriously. And that's why I'm going to vote in favor of this water rate increase.
Okay. Any more questions? Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. I too am going to vote in favor of this rate increase because there are technology issues that need to be addressed. There has to be efficiency in reading the meters, as Councilman Lara had mentioned, and that's in the timeline in the upcoming years. No longer are we going to have individuals reading the meters house to house. The meters will be read with the new technology. Given with time and the increased water rates, we're going to come up to speed with the technology, and I'm looking forward to that. Our residents deserve the best, and so this is an item that needs to be addressed head on, and that's why I am in favor of this upgrade, and which will come as a result of increased water rates. Thank you.
Questions?
City Manager, does any of this water rate increase go towards salaries?
All to capital infrastructure. It could potentially be salaries if we do our PFAS for our operations and maintenance.
Okay. So, but for now, none of this goes to salaries. It goes to our needed infrastructure and basically pipes in the ground.
That is correct.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that for the public.
Any more questions? Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
I second.
Commissioner Camacho,
No.
Commissioner Laura,
Yes.
Commissioner Lutz,
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Sanchez,
Yes.
President Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman of the Water Authority, the third and final public hearing is a public hearing for the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan. Again, this is a public hearing to consider this item. Madam City Clerk, have we received any written or oral communications on this matter? Since there is no oral or written communications, it's appropriate to close the public hearing and bring it up to the council level for any questions or consideration of action on this item.
No questions?
Move as recommended.
Have a motion to approve? Second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Commissioner Camacho,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura,
Yes.
Commissioner Lutz,
Yes.
Vice President Dr. Sanchez,
Yes.
President Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Mayor, that concludes our public hearings for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments. We received written communications from the following: Jose Sanchez regarding the Rosemead Boulevard Rehabilitation Pavement Agreement. Henry Martinez, Christina Martinez, Mon Gerard, Rudy Ramirez, Patty Corona, Luis Rivas, Gregory Santana, Juan Castro, and Juan Sanchez in support of keeping the golf course operations open, and Carlos Centeno regarding the market value of homes. Emails containing the written communications were provided to all city council members. Okay. Having reviewed the consent, do we have any requests to pull items? Councilman Lara?
I'd like to pull item number 12, please.
Item number 12. Councilman Camacho?
I don't have any.
None? Councilman Lutz?
10.
10. Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve all the balance?
So move.
I make a second.
Second?
Councilmember Camacho,
Yes.
Councilmember Lara,
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez.
Yes.
Mayor Elias.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, I too wanted to pull item number 10, but let's, Councilman Lutz, can you talk about item 10?
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 10 is approving of the month-to-month agreement with the contractor Labarge that manages the golf course. And I wanted to reiterate to the public, the golf course property, the actual land itself is owned by the Army Corps of Engineers, and the city is simply leasing it. And it's just come time now for safety reasons that the dam has to be upgraded, and hence the golf course, portions of it will have to disappear. I understand that at the end of this month, this contract with the management company ends, and holes 5 through 8 disappear at the end of the year. Is that correct?
September.
September, okay. If we were to continue the agreement with Labarge, that would be for the remainder of the golf course, and that would generate profit. Otherwise, if we close the golf course, there would be no profit to be made. Is that correct?
Yes, up until September, we do show a surplus, and then once the holes close, we will have to operate the banquet facility, and we still have to come back to council with their direction to come back with. I think there was option 2 and 3, so we haven't. Council hasn't made a decision yet on as far as moving forward with those 2 options.
Okay. I'm comfortable with the month-to-month agreement. I'm comfortable with the banquet hall making money during that month-to-month interim time period rather than making $0. So, Mayor, if you had any comments.
You know, from the community interest that we're getting, there's a need to clarify the issues here, the issues surrounding the whole topic. I recommend that council actually follow its proper procedures and allow our Parks and Recreation Commission to actually review, okay, and discuss the situation with the golf course. And in fact, with the possibility of even holding public hearings. So we hear from the community in terms of what their feelings about it. And I would agree that we would go on to month, but again, I encourage council to, to place it in the Parks and Recreation agenda, so then they can discuss it. Do I have a second on that?
Sure, you have a second on that. May I make a comment once you're done?
Okay. Now, do we put a vote on the month-to-month? Okay. Motion?
No, he still wants to comment.
I move to,
Oh,
I just want to make a brief comment.
discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I agree with your assessment, Mayor. I agree with the assessment of Councilmember Lutz. I think there still needs to, I read every single one of those public comments, and I think that there's a great deal of misinformation regarding who's driving the closure of the golf course. I was happy to see the PR, the public relations campaign kicked off last Thursday. I've seen a lot of those social media posts. Thank you very much for that. But I think we need to allow engagement with the public so that they fully understand that, one, this is Army Corps land. They are taking part of this land permanently for the expansion of the dam. We don't know what we will get back. Even after September, we know that holes 5, 6, 7, or 5, 6, 7, 8 are gone, and even the driving range. But we really won't know until construction begins. And we don't know if they'll even leave us with 4 or 5 holes at the end of it. So I agree with the month-to-month contract. I think that's appropriate. I think they're turning the figures that are being given to me, it appears that they're turning a profit. So that's always good to see. But I think more engagement, we need to switch into informing the public of the mitigation strategies that are being done on behalf of the city. We also need to make sure that those residents who live in that area, the fairways, the homes that butt up right against that golf course, we need to make sure that they're being advocated for in terms of public health. Once that construction starts, once that dust starts getting kicked up, it's going to exacerbate respiratory illnesses, it's going to exacerbate allergies, it's going to exacerbate asthma. We need to make sure that those citizens are fully aware that they can file claims, environmental claims, to help offset the pain and suffering that they're going to go through. So once again, that's engagement, that's education, and that's really almost door-to-door activity in terms of engaging the public in that area.
Councilman Camacho, since this is going to be a major item in economic development, could you also take his concerns into consideration in your committee?
absolutely, and that's something echoing Councilman Lada's concerns is what we've been, as a whole, trying to address with the Army Corps of Engineers is as, here we are today being asked to just approve a month-to-month. We don't know what options we're going to finalize, 2 or 3, and how we engage, that's to be determined. But one of the bigger pictures and one of the concerns that I've been getting is what happens when this is closed and you got many acres of open land there, and you have the noise impacts, you have the dust impacts. And as I mentioned before, there's smaller projects in the city that's already creating those impacts at a smaller degree. This is a huge project, and we want to make sure that at the end of the day that those residents that live in the vicinity are, are safeguarded, their health is safeguarded, and if there's any health mitigation to occur, that there is a process for that. So I do believe that's going to be our driving force for this project, right? Aside from talking about potentially positioning companies and employees to take advantage of the economic boom from that investment. But the public health is number one, especially everyone that lives within that area is going to be key, and that should be a primary driving force as a council as a whole with all departments. So yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, do you have?
No, I would just like to comment to the residents, thank you to those who have looked into the website and advocated on the issue. We did receive several from the individuals that live in the Fairways gated community regarding the concerns of homelessness. And there's a riverbed, the San Gabriel Spreading Grounds area that's there, and the bike trail. So I think that also is an area for consideration, that even when the holes and the driving range are shut down, that we need to consider of how to mitigate that and work with our law enforcement and also the staff there to help work on that.
Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor, City Council, I also like to let council know that the Army Corps will be presenting in July to the city councils to give some updates. So we will have them here in the chambers. Also, we put out a pretty robust communications plan that we sent a memo out describing some of the steps we're taking to inform our residents. In fact, tomorrow we're actually meeting with some resident groups, the Fairways Homeowners Association. So will be presenting to them as well. We did present some information to the Parks Commission. However, we can update that presentation to include some of the items that we discussed tonight.
And, no, okay. And lastly, the situation of the discussion in terms of green space and recreations and so on. Now, the commissions were created to advise, to advise the council. So I'm going to encourage that we use these commissions as much as we possibly can, so then we can get the proper feedback, from the community. So again, I would hope, when is the next Parks and Recreation Commission meeting?
In July, the second Thursday in July.
Will the public be allowed to participate at this time?
Yeah, in July, we are opening up to the public.
Is it possible that the commission could hold a hearing, invite people?
Oh, every commission meeting is open, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes,
everything
yeah,
will be open
absolutely.
to the public.
Fantastic, okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
When the Army Corps comes out, we really need to engage the fairways. We need to engage those residents. And maybe we might want to think, depending upon what type of response we get from those residents, we may want to hold our council meeting, that meeting, in a different location to accommodate more people. If there's more concerns, so that they can come out and engage with the Army Corps directly with some of their health concerns and quality of life.
Yeah, we can work on that, council member. Some future, they did agree to participate with us on our marketing efforts, educating the public. This is something that they weren't willing to do before, but now they have, they are willing to do that now.
Okay. Item number 12?
I move to approve item number 10.
I second.
Councilmember Camacho?
Yes.
Councilmember Lara?
Yes.
Councilmember Lutz?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez?
Yes.
Mayor Elias?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 12, Councilman?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I pulled this item because I feel either maybe we need more time to look at this, or maybe it'd be more appropriate to send out a different RFP for bid. So based upon reading the report, and please, City Manager, correct me when I stray from the facts, there's two items before us in this one ticket. One is approving for the amount of a little bit over $100,000 to deal with 470 trees that need trimming ASAP. I'm okay with that because that's a backlog. The second part is moving from a 5-year tree trimming cycle, which was implemented back in a previous city council, as a cost-saving measure, We want to now implement a 3-year tree trimming cycle, but that increases the yearly contract to over $400,000. A little bit, $100,000 more than what we are currently paying annually now for our tree trimming services. So I think maybe the council might want to consider going out for a new RFP and seeing what, if we can get a better rate, given that we're switching the terms of the contract from 5 to 3, and just seeing that if we can negotiate a better rate to potentially save some more money.
Mr. City Manager, what's your response?
One of the things I just wanted to make sure that maybe we can do an informal assessment of what the marketplace is doing in different cities, because the concern could be that we are locked in at some of the pricing that we had before. And as you know, pricing have been escalating as a result of the lack of labor and materials. So again, something that we could consider doing, we can do an informal assessment just to make sure we're in line, and then bring it back to council. If there is some disparity there, make a recommendation to do an RFP.
Mayor, given that recommendation, maybe hopefully we can bring this back at the next council meeting once we've obtained more information from the city manager, and then move forward or seek other options regarding this item.
This is going to require a motion from you.
Yeah, so my motion is that we bring item number 12, the contract, the amendment for the tree maintenance services with West Coast Arborists, back to the next city.
Do we have a second?
I second the continuation of this.
I think this is an opportunity, too, that we could talk about the contracting situation. There was a concern from Councilman Lara that we weren't given sufficient time to be able to review the contracts, which I agree with you. And we had somewhat set up a system or procedure, Mr. City Manager, that after talking to the city clerk, doesn't make sense. She has the solution to this. Can you describe what the solution that we're going to have to allow us more time to review these from a procedural standpoint?
Yes, Mayor. We discussed having the contracts on the agenda, and if council needed more time to review the item, that they could pull it and bring it back in 2 weeks.
Now, will we have some kind of indication that will make us, aware that this is subject to review, or some kind of tickler?
I don't know what kind of contract you want to look at, but maybe the franchise contracts, maybe the NASA or the larger contracts.
Okay.
It may take more time to review.
So they'll be part of the consent. We'll be able to pull them out for discussion, and that will give us the 2 weeks for the next.
You can bring it back in 2 weeks, or if you need more time.
Well, that just describes status quo. That describes exactly the process that we have now. Hopefully, at the good of the order or new business, I was going to bring an amendment before the council, and hopefully to get a second, so that we have a discussion and vote, so that we codify exactly what we would like in terms of the 2 weeks.
So we want further discussion on it. Now, what was the problem with putting it in new business and then old business? Like we had talked about?
Mr. Mayor, I think we're having a side discussion on contracts when really what we're looking at is item 12. So if we can resolve item 12.
That's resolved. I was speaking after this. This allowed the opportunity of speaking. We already resolved number 12, okay? So I'm talking about the procedures right now in terms of the future in contract review. And you stated that we should pull it from the consent for discussion?
Correct. If there's a item that you want to have more time to review, you can pull it from the consent calendar or bring it back in 2 weeks.
Mr. City Manager, what,
Yeah, I think that's the process that I think we offered to a couple
you're
of the
saying
members.
that's not,
Well, I'm saying that we can re-engineer the process, something that maybe works
Okay.
different and better for us.
what is your suggestion so we re-engineer it?
Sure. So I'd like to make a motion that at the next city council meeting, that we have a discussion and a vote on giving a 2-week moratorium for contracts.
Okay, now the term moratorium bothers me.
Sure, we could do, what would make you feel more at ease?
Councilman?
Well, before you guys finalize a term, I just wanted to comment on the fact that, you know, I see what is being discussed here, and quite frankly, what we just did right now on this previous item was exactly what is allowed to us.
Yeah.
The item was pulled, as the city clerk explained. We're going to continue it for proper discussion, as we can pull any other item on this agenda right now to continue the discussion. And if that next meeting came and the will of the body still says, you know what, we need to continue, we can continue this item as long as we feel fit to discuss. So I just want to get the clarity as to,
Yeah.
once again, I don't want to do any duplicative work and add more, again, another layer of bureaucracy or work for staff that they're already overwhelmed to bring us that. Anything we can do to create efficiency, transparency, accountability, 100%. But let's not duplicate the efforts. is what I'm-
My concern about the moratorium is that it should be a process rather than stopping.
Sure, no, that's fine. Maybe moratorium is a bad word. Just to follow up with Councilmember Camacho, that interchange that we had actually took a few hours of behind-the-scenes work. One, I had to go through, I had to make sure I read the contract. Two, I had to make sure that I got in front of the city manager today to discuss all the ins and outs, and we went back and forth regarding item number 12. And, you know, they're no longer here on Friday. So I just have either Monday or Tuesday, and sometimes Mondays are holidays. So it really puts a crunch on when I can, one, read all that material. Our agenda was over 650 pages, deliberate on it, go back and forth with the city, and then I got to show up at 6 p.m. to make a decision. I think that, and this was an easy contract, mind you, right? I think that a lot of the contracts that are before us are multi-million-dollar contracts. They change the trajectory of the city. They're multi-year contracts. I would like a little bit more time to deliberate on these items. And so if moratorium is not a term that is amendable, then a 2-week review process.
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
if I may comment.
Richard?
I feel that our process is sufficient because these contracts are already reviewed by our city attorney, who I imagine has an expertise in contract law. I myself, an educator, realtor, nurse, we maybe don't have the expertise to review the contracts, but if there is something of which concern, you have the opportunity to pull it and take that time to meet with the city manager, whether it be 2 weeks, 1 month. So I think that the process is already in place. And if it is a really long contract, then you have the courtesy to pull it without creating an additional barrier to move things forward.
Councilman Camacho?
Yeah, and I just want to address Councilman Lada's concern about being able to meet with staff. And, you know, I supported the 410 schedule some time ago, and I'm starting to there's some concerns that have arisen about that because of availability on Mondays and Fridays. So I would suggest, and thank you, Councilman Lada, for bringing it up, that when we have a council meeting on a Tuesday, then all staff should be making themselves available on a Friday, regardless of your schedule, for us, if that is a concern.
You know, I think it's a good idea that the city manager and the city clerk meet with you, Councilman, and discuss exactly what your concern is, because I would hate to have that impending concern.
Sure, without a doubt. I'll go back and I'll circle the bases again with them. Thank you.
Okay? Okay, so we're done with that. We are on regular agenda? No? City managers report.
Yes, Mayor, City Council. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our Director, Monica Heredia from Public Works, to talk about traffic calming measures. As you know, this is a hot topic, and what the intent here was to design a process so that our residents can, with certainty, apply for various traffic calming measures. Tonight is just a presentation, looking for some additional input from council so that we can make the appropriate changes, and once again, bring it back to council for a formal adoption. Monica?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Actually, we have our expert here tonight, so it is my pleasure to introduce Farhad Irani Talab. I hope I didn't chop his last name, from Wilden Engineering. Farhad is one of our 2 consulting firms that provide traffic engineering services to the city. He will present an overview of the Traffic Calming Program Handbook that all of you have been waiting for. So, Farhad, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, member of the council. My name is Farhad Irani Talab, and I'm a contract city traffic engineer for the last 2 years. And I was assigned to develop a guideline and a handbook for a traffic calming process, because it's very important to have a policy so people know what they're looking for, not being subjective, at least being a process. So as you can see, I'm going to go pretty quick, so for the interest of time. Basically, there are 3 E's that it talk about traffic calming. That's education, enforcement, and engineering, because there are 3 elements on the transportation. One is the driver, one is the roadway, and the other one is the geometry of the roadway. So let's go to the next one. The purpose of this handbook is to provide the residents and the community leaders with the guidelines for requesting and applying for traffic calming measures on residential streets only. I like to emphasize on that residential street. General plan has designated certain streets functioning as arterial and collectors, and those are not included in this process because you're looking on a residential streets only. And the city traffic handbook has been categorized in 2 levels. One is a basic and the other one is comprehensive. The basic level is basically people are requesting for a stop signs, any kind of traffic control devices, red curb, truck prohibition, pedestrian crossing, doing a ladderized or continental crosswalk, school studies. Those are the things that has been regulated by federal, state, and local agencies, warrants, and criteria. So that one is basically someone coming for a stop sign, the city will take it, and we do a small study to see if it meets all the criteria from the federal and the state agencies. And this one doesn't require any petition or request from the whole neighborhood. Those are the examples that I can give you. There's a painting and high visibility signs. You have seen some of those, a stop sign that is flashing, or you have a crosswalk, mid-block crosswalk that is flashing. So these are the devices that is included in a basic traffic calming. And these are the process that we can go. So a resident can come in and sign the application, and Public Works Engineering, they will start looking at this with a minor data collection and decide if there is a problem or not. And if there is no problem, they will let the residents know that there is nothing we are going to do, there is no problem, because we have done a study. If it meets the criteria, then you're going to have 3 choices. Either is educational, which is very important in these days because people are so busy when they're driving, they don't even think about it. So this is spaced repetition for education is very important. The most effective traffic calming is enforcement. Unfortunately, there is not enough resources to be able to take care of that all the time. Someone's sitting there and someone is going fast. So it's hit and miss kind of a program. But that's very important. That's enforcement is one of the major speeding reduction program that we can have. The other one is engineering. That's when we are talking about doing a curb, painting, or reducing the width of the roadway. Those are the engineering portion that we are going to talk about. So if, for example, someone comes in and requests some study, there is a speeding problem. First, we go through enforcement. And if that doesn't work, then we are going to start looking at some kind of engineering background. So this is the process that the city is going through for the basic engineering. The next level is comprehensive traffic calming. The comprehensive traffic calming means you're doing some modification geometrically to the street. For example, installing a speed humps, or putting a choker, or putting a median. So these are the devices that is changing the roadway configuration physically. And that is more impacting the whole neighborhood and community. Therefore, this has more of a petition the community has to be agree on. So these are some of the examples that we have: the median, traffic circles, and bulb outs, which is usually on the intersection when you have a lot of traffic, foot traffic. You will narrow the roadway so there is less width of the road pavement for the pedestrian to cross. And then you can see a semi-diverter, that's right in the middle, bottom one. That's you prohibit movement for one direction. Or you can go completely for full closure, and that's being a diagonal diverters. And these are the process for comprehensive traffic calming. So a person wants to request, I want a speed humps, and they're, what happened? They want a speed hump. That one, if, because it's on the street itself with the neighborhood, you have to have a 51% agreement between that block of street. So this can go on because someone likes it, someone doesn't like it. So if there is no consensus, it's not going to be successful. So that's the first process. Is someone coming in to fill up an application, they have to fill out a petition signed by 51% of the people, residents on that street. So the next portion is after we get the 51%, the public works engineering will look at the criteria to see if it meets the criteria or not before we even move on. And what are the criteria? I'll go to the next one to see how it is. There are two basic criteria they're going to look at. One is operationally, and the other one is geometrically or physically. On the operationally, as I mentioned before, there is only within the residential area. And the residential area should be posted for 30 or less, 30 miles an hour or less. And the 85th percentile. The 85th percentile is the speed that the engineers use and the state law use to set the speed limit. Because basically 85% of people are good drivers and they behave in a right way. Is only 15% that's causing the problem. So the 85th percentile, if it is 7 or more over the speed limit, then you have an issue. So you got to meet that criteria. For example, if you have 25 miles an hour and someone comes in and you find out it's only 27 miles an hour on the 85th percentile, there is no issue on that sense. So these are the criteria on the operation. The daily volume should be between 1,000 and 2,000 for the residential area. The reason being, some people complain and they have only 500 people or 500 traffic volume on there, and that doesn't meet the criteria for going forward. So these are the volume criteria. And for the collectors, it's between 2,100 and 4,000 vehicles per day. So first, the public works engineer will look at those numbers and see if does it meet these operational criteria or not. The next one is the geometry characteristic. The street shall be fully completed. What does that mean? You have to have curb and gutter, and so if you don't have any shoulder or curb and gutter, that wouldn't be qualifying for that. You shouldn't have any horizontal curve or vertical curve more than 5%, because the placement of these devices are very important. If you don't put it in the right place, it can create a lot more hazard to the roadway than benefit. And the street must be at least 1,000 feet uninterrupted. It means you cannot have a 500 feet and you have a stop sign on each side and people will say there is a speeding in between. That wouldn't qualify. So if we go back, the public works look at this, and if it doesn't fit, they'll let the resident know that it doesn't meet the criteria. And so on. I think you can read that how it is. If it meets all the criteria of the operation and geometry, then you have to look at something else. Because, for example, If you have grid system, like I wanted to look at which one, Carol or whatever it is. What was the example we used? There are 3 parallel streets next to each other, and they are grid system. So if you're putting speed humps in one of them, people will start diverging to the other 2 streets. So you don't want to take away problem from one street and then add it to another street because they are coming to complain. So when we do that, we start looking at an affected area, and the public works engineering will decide how many streets are going to be impacted by using that device. And in that sense, you need about 75% of people to be agreeing on placing something in there. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble later on. So that's if you get a 75%, then the study will go on, and then it will come to the city council for approval. If that meets, then it will be placed on a temporary basis for at least 60 days. After that, you start doing a before and after study, see if the device is really doing what they're supposed to do. And if it doesn't, then we have to move on and do something different or change the plan. This is what I mean by primary affected area. You see the green street come in and they say they want to put in speed humps. But if you put that, then people are start spreading to the other 2 streets parallel to that. So you're going to increase the volume on those 2 and the speeding on those 2. So it's very important when you decide on the affected area to take a look at the whole area rather than just one street. Otherwise, you're going to move one problem to the other problem. These are the applications that people have to fill out, and they have to give their name and location and what is the problem. And this is the first thing that the Public Works Engineering will receive as part of the request. And this is the petition that they are going to fill out for the first part as a 50%. And this one kind of shows the cost of installation and kind of a maintenance. Because every 4 or 5 years, for example, if you put in any striping or signing and this thing, every 5 years you need to maintain or replace. So this kind of give you an example of what the cost is going to be. And that's conclude my presentation, so I'm ready to answer any question you have.
Questions? Councilman Lutz?
Thank you, Mayor. When would this be implemented?
Again, Mayor, Council, we would implement that as soon as we get direction from council. We wanted to present this to see if there's any questions, any changes or modifications you guys would like to see added to this, and then we would bring it back to council for formal adoption. Also including in that adoption would be proposals if we want to have full cost recovery, partial cost recovery. As we move through the process, there are expenses that are incurred that are associated with this. We could relate those expenses if they're a safety issue concern where the city would pay for that, or just looking at the initial analysis. So those are some of the recommendations we'll be bringing before council.
I wanted to add one more comment. I'm content with this formula. A lot of residents have issues with speed bumps or stop signs that they'd like to get implemented, but they're not aware of the process. And now, for once, we have a process that will be clearly available if we do vote in favor of this, accessible online. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Councilman Camacho?
Thank you. This is, as I said before, this is, been waiting for a long time. I'm glad we're here. Question regarding one of the slides where you demonstrate if you put speed bumps in one and it'll spill over, which is going to be a common situation for us. How would you address that?
Generally, the issue on the affected area is when you have a grid system, because then you have a chance to go to those 2. And I think you have a lot of grid system. The The solution to that is either the community have to work together to come to agreement to placing those the speed humps, or that's not going to work because I've seen it last 40 years on different places. You have to remove it. They put it in and people start complaining. People don't want it in front of their house. So you got to remove it. So you need that consensus within the community before you put it in.
Yeah, they didn't answer my question, but it just, I know it's an engineering challenge, right? Because you're going to have address a particular block that might have, meet all the criteria. And it will help spillover, because that's what happens when you close streets off or you create these types of traffic calming measures. But, we'll have to address it, and short of getting the community to come together and agree, of course, but I think we need to have an engineering solution to how we address this, and I think moving forward. But this, my question too is, and I know we're just having a discussion, but well, it's a comment and a question. It's like, will staff be bringing recommendations as to what areas to address first? I mean, we've had asks for traffic for whether it be the basic or the comprehensive over the years. And as was stated one of my colleagues, we never had a process. We have a process now, and it was stated that it's great. Now the community can truly, if they need signatures, they can get them, they can bring it to us. We'll react to those requests. But we already know our streets. There's a lot of areas, for example, high traffic volumes near schools, high traffic volumes near churches, high traffic volume in those, streets that, say, for example, Cruz Road or those parallel to the San Gabriel freeway, that they're beyond 500, beyond 1,000 feet, and they become, speeding areas. So I would like to, if staff doesn't have a recommendation, I would love for staff to provide us recommendation as to, if we had a first phase, what would that look like? What would it cost? And what would be those areas that we tackle based on the assessment of this traffic calming measure that's presented to us? Because we have to be proactive in some areas and then also reactive to the requests that are coming forward. I'll just say that, on the cost recovery side, I get we have to figure out where we can recover these expenses, but this is a public safety issue. This is one of those primary top of the list of every resident that has speeding, and everybody has speeding in their block, But this is where we have to provide that safety to the community and not charge them for their own safety. It's a concern, and I know we need to discuss, but nonetheless, I'm glad that we're doing this. I'm glad that this was brought forward, and I think this is something good that we can move to fix our residential streets, because I think we've done a good job overall in the city in the major arterials that, focus on safety. Although I have to say, Paramount Boulevard has always been a challenge for us, and we've done bits and pieces along the way to deal with this. I mean, unfortunately, we just had a fatality on, north of Whittier Boulevard, that if you look at the geometry, if you will, of that area, and you're making left turn into a high traffic area from a residential street, you're going to have collisions, and a lot of collisions happen in that area. And unfortunately, this one was a fatality that I think I know I spoke to the city manager, I'm sure my colleagues as well, but those are areas that we have to start building the internal safety structure and implementation of our residential streets. So that'll be all. Mayor, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned the 60 days waiting period. What is the anticipated timeline from start to finish, the day someone submits a request or their petitions? What's the anticipated timeline?
Depending how you go through the process, basically. When it comes in, then the Public Works Department decided how important it is, then give it to their traffic engineer to study. And usually it's about a month to gather data and do the field review and everything else. And when it comes into the city, then it depends on the process that has to go through you and acceptance. So usually about 5-6 months before you really do something like that on a physical basis. There are easy ones that you can do. One is, they call it road dieting. And you mentioned that that's doing with the striping and paint. Sometimes you have a very wide street. There are a couple of them. I think it was one Olympic and Beverly. You have 79 feet in a residential area. And that one you can narrow it down by doing a striping. And that one doesn't take that long. It doesn't need the consensus from the people. So those are certain things you can do, but the issue is speeding is something that nobody can really control because the driver is the control of the vehicle. And that's why education is one of the part. And I've seen that before. Everybody goes faster in someone else's street, but they don't want anybody to go fast in their street. So it's a matter of being conscious about that. And education is a very important part of that. And that has to be taught in a school. And there are programs that the teacher can teach that from the beginning in a school, that how to be safe, watch for the things. So those are the important issues that you can do. Other than that, it's very difficult to get rid of speeding. Now we have problem with making donuts on the streets, and that is becoming a very, very issue everywhere. And the only way is physical constraint, because even paint on the street cannot stop that, because they do it anywhere. So the traffic engineers' hands are tied, let's put it that way, on certain things. But we are trying to do different things, and you can, again, we are doing some stuff with Paramount. Actually, we are doing some conceptual design to slow people down by narrowing it, because the more narrower the road is, the concept is you go slower, and that is working out.
One more question. I know some cities have cameras for traffic flow. Do those show any preventative measure trying to prevent people from speeding? Or we know that the sheriff's traffic police, the sheriff on the corner, seems to slow the traffic.
Legally, that is some issues too, because they don't want the big brother to watch you. And we have even red light camera that people are running, and that has been under scrutiny for a long time. So again, you have to know how you're going to play with all of this together. That's why you have to have all three, education and enforcement. And as I said, enforcement is very important. So one of the things they can do, if they know during what period this speeding occurs, it's usually the same people doing the same speeding. Is that 15% no matter what you do, even if you put in the feedback radar sign? Those people are still going, and they go faster to see how fast they can go. So if you know what time, I think the sheriff can be there on those hours on a regular basis, not randomly, like once a month, really getting there on those hours and do citation. That would really help in slowing people down. Again, it's learning process.
Councilman?
This is one of the reasons why I ran for city council, to be honest with you. My neighbors collected signatures. I've told this story before. My neighbors collected signatures because they wanted speed bumps about maybe 2-3 years ago, and they turned them in and nothing happened. And then the neighbors got upset with the city, and they felt that they were being ignored. There's no process. And then sure enough, there wasn't a process. And that's one of the first things I brought up. Once I was elected, we needed to create a process so that the public knows. So thank you for this. Thank you, Director Heredia. Just a couple of questions on the residential streets, the minimum for 1,000 to 2,000 cars daily. Is that the standard? That seems a little high.
This is the industry standard based on how far you have to go to get to that speed that you want. If you have less than 1,000, you can never get to that speed that is necessary in those ranges that we talk about. So that's why they have that range, 1,000 feet with no control.
But also, I was referring to the number of cars that have to travel on that street. I believe it's 1,000 to 2,000, correct, for them to be considered. Like you won't, the guidelines does not consider a street with only 500 cars going through it, right? So a minimum of 1,000 cars daily going through that street would then qualify, correct?
Again, this has been empirical
Sure.
trial, and based on those studies, they come out that this is the most efficient, and because 500 is only 50 homes. Let's say you have a cul-de-sac, and you have 500 feet, or you have 500 cars. It's very difficult to do something on that portion for that amount.
Got it. I just want to make sure that we're not setting the bar too high, because I know there's a list of residents that they're concerned, they want speed bumps. I just want to make sure that we're not setting that bar too high. I understand setting a bar so that there's, some streets will just be excluded on preliminary, prima facie look, but I just want to make sure that residents will have their due. Secondly, I agree with Councilmember Camacho. I think we need to take a look at our schools. I talked to the superintendent and another school board member. They were actually pretty excited about the fact that we would be looking at the schools and maybe putting in speed bumps. They're concerned about the safety for their children. Director Heredia, what about those residents who have already either collected signatures, have put in, do they get put at the top of the list? And before you answer that, and I'll just make this last comment and then I'll stop. Two things. One, I think there should be some leeway with the council. I understand that there's rules and I understand that there's guidelines, but I'm concerned about the outliers that maybe don't fall in the typical matrix, and that council would have overriding control in putting a stop sign or maybe speed bumps. I think that there should be a provision that basically the buck stops with council in terms of those outlier considerations. Secondly, I've talked myself out. I'm sorry. So what happens with those residents who have already applied? Thank you.
Yeah, so in the presentation, I'll start with the one of the requests that we received. It was the perfect example along Cravel Avenue. We received this request, and when we did our analysis, it does not qualify for a speed hump or a speed bump based on the volume. So even though it has the 1,000 feet, it doesn't have the volume. And back to Councilman Camacho's comment about, well, so then maybe the residents next to it may want to install a speed hump. And we would do the same analysis and then determine what the affected area is. And I think what's important in this process, and it took us a long time to get a very comprehensive, detailed program so that everybody's clear as to the rules and what mandates we need to follow. Then again, I think it's important that the community or the residents in that neighborhood are involved. So maybe to answer I'm going to try to answer your question as to, okay, so, nobody wants it in their backyard, and then it's going to go to the other one. Well, we need to get buy-in, just like Farhad was saying. We need the community involvement to determine the exact location or the type of devices that community needs to slow down speed or whatever the concern may be.
I remembered my second.
Oh,
So well, I haven't answered your question, but
Okay.
that's one of them. It's just, we do have a couple that we have received, and also we already have like a whole bunch of, like 12 locations of speed humps throughout the city. After this is adopted and all of you received a copy of the entire book, so if you can give us any feedback, maybe in 2 weeks or however, how soon you want us to come back with a agenda so this can be implemented. We would need your feedback as to the process. One of the things that's discussed in the program is that we have a deadline to get these by the end of June, to get a whole bunch of projects or requests. And then we would determine if it qualifies or rank them or prioritize them, and then make sure it's in the budget, because some of these comprehensive traffic calming devices could be expensive. We're talking about 50,000, 100,000 that we didn't program in our annual operating budget. So,
And that was going to be actually, thank you, that's a great segue for my second point. We need to work out a schedule whereby either we do a comprehensive review, only 2 streets per year or 2 cases, because they're about $10,000 a report, right? And then we're going to install calming measures just for 2 streets based upon the budget, and so that people see a schedule and they see where they're at. And if we're going to do 2, then they can calculate when their street's going to come up, and they have some sort of forecast and guidance. Lastly, walking into this council meeting, I was going to my car, and my neighbor who religiously waters her grass, and I live on a corner, so there's 2 streets, and actually 2 sets of neighbors collected signatures, and I signed both of them. She came up to me, she said, I was going to say, hey, we're going to do a traffic calming measure study about the speed bump. She said, oh, good, they already called me. They told me my street's not long enough. I said, they're following up already, because that wasn't there before. And she was one of the residents who was upset because they hadn't followed up with her for years, but now she had an answer, and that's it. So the residents are being listened to. That's the whole key. They're being listened to, there's a roadmap, there's guidance, and that's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Lutz.
Yes, I wanted to ask Director Ridia, just because people get 51% signatures doesn't mean that their particular street qualifies for the request that they're asking for. I want to make sure that the residents don't get their hopes up. We're going to get 100% signatures because there's a combination of industry standards and state requirements for speed bumps and stop signs, because what you have to factor in is emergency vehicles and other things that we're not aware of. Is that correct?
That's correct. And everything is in this handbook. Again, once it's adopted, we can post it in the website so everyone is aware. Part of what Farhad mentioned is the 3 E's: education, enforcement, and engineering. And I think this handbook is part of that education as to the procedures, guidelines, and yeah.
Yes. I grew up in front of Rivera Park, and I would have loved to see speed bumps because you have a lot of speed racers passing up and down there over the last decades. But I know that it's not viable because emergency vehicles have to go along that path. And so as long as Councilmember Lara said, as long as we get an answer, that's important.
Yes, we usually get back to residents when we get all requests. So we've been pretty good about that in the last 2 years.
No, Mayor Sikil, just to give you an idea, since last June, we've had over 55 requests. So just wanted to give you a good sense of what those calls are coming in for these types of mitigation measures.
Mr. City Manager, since this is a report and it's nothing that we can actually vote on, could you please, before you place this on the agenda, make sure that you touch down or have sessions with the council people to incorporate, some of their thoughts in your agenda item?
Yes, Mayor, I actually brought this to the ad hoc committee under Councilman Camacho.
Is that acceptable? Yeah, okay.
One thing I wanted to mention on a speed humps to be effective, you need at least a series of them, 250, 260 feet apart. Otherwise, you're going to have a spot reduction and then increase the speed in between. So you generally, if you have 1,000 feet, you're going to have 2 of them on 300 feet apart. And that's how it works. And that's what the 500 feet, you're going to have just one in the middle. It's not going to be as effective as what it should do.
Thank you for it.
Sure. Thank you.
Gabe, do you have that slide? You can put the one regarding the information that we're going to be putting out to the public on a monthly basis.
No, the
No,
one,
the public works slide we're going to post on social media.
the stats on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Farhad.
So if he can't find it, we're definitely going to start posting out information regarding number of cards picked up, all the different functions that Public Works handles on a monthly basis to give our residents more information. I think if he finds it, we'll put it up there. But I just wanted to let council know this will be coming out on a monthly basis.
Does that complete your reports?
That's it, Mayor.
Next item, new business. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem, no?
Yes, I'd like to mention something. I received an email from some of our colleagues through the Gateway Cities Council of Governments regarding SB 9, essentially looking to eliminate single-family zoning in our cities. I provided my name in opposition for this bill. Several of our colleagues from several Bay Area cities are opposed. And part of it, I think, is due to again, we're in the situation where our state legislators are passing bills that are tying our hands regarding housing. And I think it's important that we, especially small cities like Pico Rivera, maintain local control and become vocal. I think it's too late to add a letter. They wanted it by tomorrow, but I put my name as an individual. But I would like to request our city manager and staff to look into this bill and also submit something to the Gateway Cities Council to bring to us to discuss and possibly support Gateway Cities Council in opposition of SB 9.
Yeah, definitely something. If I can get some consensus, to some extent of council's feeling, we could get that letter ready to go. One of the things we're going to work on moving forward is adopting a legislative policy so that it gives us a little bit of flexibility to respond to some of these requests under general guidelines because sometimes there are some timing issues. We have to get letters out. We want to make sure that we're in sync with council's priorities.
One more thing, a second item I'm very excited to announce. I heard from our Parks and Rec Department that we received a new grant called No Kid Hungry. And we're very excited about that. And along with that initiative, I'll let our Parks and Rec Director talk a little bit about it. But I wanted to see if you could also give an update regarding our school lunch, not our school lunch, our summer lunch program. And I wanted to let the residents know that we are providing summer meals, 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. You can correct me if I'm wrong, at 4 of our parks. And for any child, no pre-registrations required. They could be 18-year-old high school seniors, and the children do not need to be present, correct? It's a grab and go. So if you can give us an update on that, thank you.
Well, you just did a great job, Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez. So we are at 4. Sorry? Oh, we're at 4 sites, like you said, and a couple of months ago, Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez brought us an opportunity to apply for a grant that we went ahead and applied for. And I'd need to give a shout out to Supervisor Efren Lee, who helped lead the process for that grant. And because of that, we were able to secure almost $25,000 that is going straight to be able to buy supplies to enhance the program. And it may sound silly, but it's important. There's supplies like carts, things that make things easier for us to get from one place to another, for staff to utilize, more PPE for COVID and safety, and just a lot of cool like warmers and things to keep the milk cooler, those types of things. And it also helped to pay for staffing. We have been so short-staffed over in the Parks and Rec Department that we were able to utilize this funding to provide an additional kind of like an emergency raise for the people who got hired so we can be competitive with the other cities. So it's been a really great program. So thank you for that opportunity, Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Sanchez, and we're just really proud of it. And we also have Congresswoman Sanchez will be coming to the city on Friday, July 9th. She's coming to volunteer at our summer food program because she's really proud of it. She heard it's fantastic. So I just wanted to share that with the mayor and council as well.
If you take a look at the slide, this is what we're going to be sending on a monthly basis on our social media websites. One other thing I just Again, going back, I just want to know, let council know that we actually were successful in getting a grant from Caltrans, about 332,000 to study the Whittier corridor. So that'll be a planning grant to talk about corridor revitalization. That'll help us in planning that moving forward. So wanted to thank staff and Javier for making sure that happened. So.
Old business? Oh, excuse me.
I'll say it under new business, and I just want to piggyback on the monthly social media post. That's great. I was wondering if we can also, I know we've discussed, the mayor's brought it up, is the before and after pictures
Yes.
of cleanups, improvements, the community can to see what it was and what it is today. It'd be great for you to add that.
Definitely.
Good. I'll put in the new business. I know we've had the conversation about traffic calming measures, but I know we've been looking at parking assessment. Citywide parking assessment is something that we've been conversing for a while. And, we were looking into doing an inventory as to our parking needs and requirements. And as was stated by Mayor Pro Tem, that the legislative housing laws that are coming our way are just becoming, more dense, and we need to adapt to it. But I think on the parking side of things, we need to determine whether we're in the crossroads to be a city with parking permits in districts, citywide, or not. But I think we are in that maybe that's our way to, and I feel strong, maybe it's a way for us to curtail the amount of vehicles in our city by just allowing so many to be in our city. So if we can, I know that staff's been working on it, but if we can move that along, that'd be great.
Councilman, I could comment on that. We had a study some time ago where, on the average, we didn't have a parking problem, on the average. But, if you walk the precincts, you understand that there is some major problems in the areas there. Planning is already taking a look at this, and they're using the Bellflower model, where essentially they'd be working through grids and determining the need by the community, the residents, voting if they want to have if they want to have the permits and so on. Just like our housing along Telegraph, Downey has, it restricts overnight parking. So, on the Pico Rivera side, it's empty during the evening. All of Downey parks, on our side here. So there is some major problems in terms of some sectional areas. But the chairman of the planning department has talked to me about they're trying to figure out a parking situation like that. Sir?
Thank you. Once again, thank you for the joint meeting with the El Rancho Unified School District. Thank you for everyone involved, the staff.
Hold on. We've got to follow the agenda here.
Yeah,
Okay. So what do we have are we complete with new business?
I'm not sure.
well, I was going to just bring I just made a
Because, we can hold it to the good of the order.
I was just making a preface because I want to bring something back to the council. I was going to request a few items to come back. Can I do
Okay.
it here?
I'm going to ask the boss here. Is that appropriate? Yes? Okay. She said yes.
So during that meeting, the school board brought up several times the use of our swimming pool. I think it would be appropriate to have a discussion on the current status of our swimming pool and how much it would cost to upgrade it. I'd like to bring this back to the next council meeting, or maybe if not the next one relatively soon, so that we could get a cost estimate on how much it would take to repair our swimming pool, because it deals with the boiler and the pump and whatnot.
Well, this has already been discussed. Mr. City Manager, can you explain to us the situation with the swimming pool there?
Yes, to get the boilers back up and running, we estimated a cost of over $600,000. This was pricing that was done maybe over a year ago, so those numbers can actually increase. Overall, the project needs about $10 million of upgrades. We applied for various grants. Recently, we applied with Senator Archuleta's office to repair just the boiler system. There is also Prop 68 funding that we're requesting to hopefully do a more expansive repair of our pool facilities.
How did a swimming pool incur $10 million worth? What,
A lot of it is complying with new ADA requirements. There's cracks throughout the pools. There are a lot of repairs that need to be made. The pool was constructed some time ago, and so there's a lot of deferred maintenance associated with that.
Yeah, but part of the discussion is a discussion of whether or not we need to move this up on the priority list. There's projections that we're going to have a $2.2 million surplus. I understand that, taking a look at the budget, a lot of that money's going to facility reports. I think maybe the council might want to entertain a discussion on moving some of that money so that we can expedite the swimming pool, so we can get it up for the summertime, so we can also make it available for the school district. That's the only ask that they asked of us. I just think it would do us well to have this as a further discussion, but if not, then that's fine.
are you proposing that?
Yeah, I'm proposing that we bring this back to the next council meeting or a council meeting within a relatively short.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay.
With a comment, I wasn't aware that the cost of repairing an existing pool is $10 million.
Yes, I could have Monica go and Pam into more detail. We actually applied for a grant based upon those numbers.
Sure. I've actually written several grants for not only our city, but other cities. And 10 million is about the going rate for a refurbishment of a brand-new pool. Because most of the pools in San Gabriel Valley or Southeast were built 20 years ago. And so they're not up to standards. And once you go in to start fixing them, you need to be up to industry standards. And of course, ADA compliance and those types of things. If we received the grant for 8.5 million from the state, we would still have a need to fix our pool at Smith Park. So it would definitely do about 90% of what needs to be done, but we still would be short.
And the term of repair would be how many months would the term of repair take?
So I'll just give you an example. For Prop 68, if we were funded, we have 3.5 years to get the job done. So they believe that from start to finish, it should take 3 years.
And just another note, we subsidize the pool operation to about $360,000 a year. Also, going back to the budget, the surplus has been prioritized with council in the budget for
Excuse me,
economic development functions.
You said subsidized. Is it an enterprise?
No, it
Oh,
is.
well, then it's not, it wouldn't be subsidized, subsidization.
Cost.
But
It costs
the cost
us-
is how much?
Yeah, about $324,000.
All right. So,
I got a follow-up question to that. I know that once we start doing repairs, we trigger other requirements. But until we figure out where we get the big chunks of money like this grant, if we were to fix the boiler itself, could we temporarily use it and open it up until we get the grants and still be able to utilize the pool?
Yeah, that could be an option to just repair the boiler system, just to get it. But again, there are some cracks in the pool that need to be addressed as well. So I don't know the exact figures, what that would include, but just for the boiler system, to get it back up where swimmers can go at a comfortable temperature, it's anywhere between $650,000 to $800,000.
I think it's something we should entertain because I think that, short of trying to get all the monies, we're going to find ourselves many years in the future without a pool. So if there are ways of, doing a hybrid in the meantime, I would agree with Councilman Arlada that we should, prioritize that.
so that's going to be included in your
Yeah.
request for agenda?
Yeah, thank you very much. Did I get a second?
Second.
Yes,
Oh, that's
Councilman
right.
Lutz.
Thank you, Councilmember Lutz. Yeah, okay, just a few more items, I'm sorry.
A few?
Yeah, just a few more items.
Oh.
I've been talking with staff about potentially using garage space as utility rooms. Currently state law allows ADUs. They allow people to set up, you could have a kitchen, you could have a shower, you can have running water, and you can rent out your garage. But there's this big middle ground that I'd like the city to develop in terms of their building code and in terms of permitting. I think this is something that would allow more functional space for people who own their homes. Secondly, it would be a potential source of revenue with the permitting process. I've already talked to staff, but they can't do any further work until I get a second for them to research this and hopefully bring it back to council. If someone would please oblige me with a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Just lastly, city manager, in regards to the public is going to be allowed to come in at the next city council meeting. They're going to be allowed to address the city council. Can we talk about that real briefly in public? I think that's important so that the community knows.
Certainly. I'll turn it over to Ryan Hudson, HR Director.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. So tomorrow we're going to be rolling out a new internal policy regarding the COVID restrictions, essentially allowing fully vaccinated staff members to be exempt from the restrictions. Based on our tentative conversations, we don't think it's viable for us to be gathering vaccine records from members of the public. So we do plan to reopen city council meetings to the public at the first meeting in July. We plan to require face masks for members of the public who want to participate in city council meetings. And we are going to be limiting the council chamber to about 50% capacity. Other than that, the council chamber will be open for the public to make comment and to view the city council meeting. And again, we will maintain the 6 feet separation and the masks for members of the public. Members of the city council and staff who certify that they are vaccinated and complete the appropriate process will be certified to be exempt from that protocol. But members of the public will be expected to follow social distancing protocols.
So what's the capacity of this room?
The capacity of this room is 128, I believe.
Thank you, 128. So we have approximately, 25 people now, right? So 50% of 128 is. Thank you. Thank you. So basically, we're allowing about 30 people in. But hypothetically, I'd like the exception that if 75 people show up outside and they want to talk about the golf course, that we allow 30 in, but we make just a suggestion, Mayor, if I may, that we allow those members to come in, say their piece, and then they would have to exit.
Councilman, I have a little problem with this discussion here. You are a health professional and you are sitting on the committee for health, okay? The council makes policy. I would see him suggesting to you and both of you coming up with a policy rather than.
That's perfect. I just wanted to bring this to the public just because I didn't want there to be any type of, well, I thought it was supposed to be last meeting, no, this meeting. I just wanted the public to know that in some capacity, the city will be open to hear their voice. I just want to be an advocate for that.
And that's why, again, I would like to hear it from your committee after conferring with him.
Will do. Thank you for that. Lastly, Mr. Jose Sanchez, I managed to go visit this gentleman. We had a pleasant visit. We talked about his street. We talked about his issue.
Hold on, let me, City Clerk, is he abusing the? No? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. We went and I walked his area, as many of us have throughout the years. They're asking that in the time being that we've put a pause to Rosemead Boulevard from being paved. Those residents are asking that we at least grind down the area that's the cause of thumping, which is causing micro vibrations, which potentially, I'm not saying that it is, which potentially is creating foundational issues for them and also noise issues. In that meantime, they're just asking that we grind this down. Now, is this something, City Manager, that I have to bring back to the next City Council, or is this something that Public Works can just do, given that it's below a threshold of the threshold that you have where you can unilaterally act?
We are going to take a look. I've had staff send out our engineers, so I'm waiting for a report back to see actually what that would entail and their recommendation. So we could bring that information back to council.
Thank you. And then the general manager, Alex Rojas, we met with him. Have we followed up? Have we given them the schematics for the recycled water?
Yes, I'll turn it over to Monica to answer that question.
Yes, I have. Actually, I have given him specifically Rosemead Boulevard.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's enough.
That's enough?
That's just new business.
Okay.
Some of that stuff was old.
Old business?
I have a few items. No, I'm just kidding. No, I just have one item. And first of all, I just want to thank the mayor and Dr. Marino, Board Member Marino, for bringing and creating the joint meeting between the council and the board. I think it was very fruitful and great conversation. There was a lot of inquiries on the Home Depot site once the fencing started going on. I know we received the memo. We've been discussing through the ad hoc committee. But can you just elaborate as to what is taking place at the Home Depot, Mr. City Manager, just so the public can be aware?
Sure. As you're well aware, the Home Depot is currently closed. For actually a couple years, we've been working with two different developers. The current owner was going to originally sell that particular property to a new development team. At that time, the current tenant mix was 24 Hour Fitness. It was a Burlington. It was a Ross. And now that has changed. Where they're talking to is Burlington has actually signed on. They're the official tenant that has recently signed on and pulled the permit. The remaining are possibility of Ross and Adidas. We originally had expressed our desire for a different type of tenant mix some time ago. We worked with a national retail brokerage firm to help identify those tenants. But most of the tenants that we actually wanted them to look at our site due to demographic reasons were not willing to locate in that particular center. So currently, right now, the only secure tenant is Chase Bank, right? They're relocating from across the street, and also Burlington. In addition to that, I'd like to say that the developer is working to establish a business improvement district. They will fund that business improvement district consultant. That would go from river to river. That would incorporate a self-assessment of many of the property owners in the area to create a pool of funds that would be utilized for marketing efforts, additional security, and it also could collaborate with their Chamber of Commerce in identifying how they can help our businesses flourish moving forward.
Thank you.
Through with old business? Okay. Good of the order? Mayor Pro Tem? No? Okay. Councilman?
I have none.
No.
None.
Councilman Lutz?
No items.
Okay. My turn. I want to thank the management for organizing and staging the recent, and I say historic, because it is a historic joint meeting. There have been meetings, but not where the two councils meet, so thank you very much for that. We need to develop that relationship. I don't know if you recall, I know that Javier was there in the meeting, when I showed that the city population and the student population is in a decline, okay? And obviously, it affects them in terms of their income because they get, money for every student that, that attends annually and so on. So, their revenues have been decreasing. So we really are going to have to work together in not only expanding our tax base, but also in terms of all the plans that we have in terms of revitalization. I wanted to ask Councilman Lutz, what priority is given when a new people want to come in terms of education? Where does that rank?
When new families want to come into a neighborhood, they look at what is appealing to them, and what is appealing is the aesthetics of the neighborhood. But more importantly, when it's a family with kids, they look at the school ranking. And part of the school ranking, if it's low, they'll think twice about coming into the neighborhood, even though the neighborhood is very nice, the houses have nice aesthetics, and there's good green space. They also look at the minimum graduating GPA. If the minimum graduating GPA is significantly lower than the rest of the communities, then maybe that particular community may not be at the top of their list. And that is a concern here in Pico Rivera.
I had an old city manager one way back that mentioned to me, he said, Pico Rivera is never going to be where it should be unless we bring the school district also in that kind of progress. So again, it's important. It's important to me, but I'm also hit with the situation where I am going to have to recuse myself from any participation in it because the district is my employer. So what, I was, I didn't even have to consider it. We have a very qualified committee chair already. Dr. Sanchez is in education already. She's been part of the commission, the Parks Commission and Planning Commission. So she understands the city probably better than me, okay? So what I would like to do is that I would like to propose, instead of establishing a new ad hoc committee for this situation, that we put it, under the jurisdiction of the Community Service Committee that Councilman Sanchez chairs. Is that acceptable to you? Okay, so,
Got it. This young city manager agrees.
okay, all right. Are there any questions about that? Okay, the other item is Councilman Camacho. Our Washington representative requested that we provide 6 priorities of need from the federal government. Can you work with your Economic Development Committee and the city manager to come up with those priorities? Councilman Lara, it was broadcasted in our local news that vaccinations in Hispanic communities are considerably low, 28%. Can you report to us next council on the state of our health?
Definitely, thank you.
Clarification on an approved budget. I had several individuals, very aggressively, trying to explain to me why it was a bad move for me to approve the budget, And there were 2 arguments that they posed. They said those 11 positions were layoffs. Can you please clarify to everyone in the room and our residents, were the 11 positions layoffs?
They were not, absolutely not, Mayor.
Okay. They were vacancies.
They were vacant positions.
Okay. How are those vacancies produced or the result of?
Through our early retirement program, some of them were vacancies that existed, and after meeting with staff, they were determined not essential, so they were proposed for elimination.
Okay, that was the one bit of misinformation that was existing. The other was that we refused to sit and negotiate with the union.
Yeah, that's false as well, Mayor.
Well, explain to me why it's false.
Yeah, so we actually have met with the union on a number of different occasions. My presence was offered in a number of different meetings as well, waiting for a response. I would have to say that I have subsequently reached out to the union, and we are going to move forward on a different front. We have expressed a desire to have our continuous meetings, and where my presence is needed, I will be there.
So it's clear.
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay. The other item that I wanted to speak to the city manager of is that at the end of this month, the federal prohibition on evictions is ending. Are we going to have a county?
I believe that was extended until September on the statewide level.
Okay. Are there any things that we have to do to prepare ourselves to make sure that our residents are?
Yeah, we are putting out information regarding rental relief programs that both the state and the county provide. But the good news is it was extended until September.
One last item on the budget approval. Is the quality of service going to be compromised in any way?
Absolutely not.
So we have proper coverage, because I did read the scenarios. If someone was ill, there was nobody to cover.
Yeah, no, we have coverage, Mayor.
Okay. We have a community counselor right now that is working the senior citizens, that is helping senior citizens through their paperwork and so on. And council extended their duties to include include veterans. So I know that individual is, up to their ears in alligators. But we have a situation where the federal government is going to, implement that rent recovery program. Is there any way that we're going to be able to take, advantage or be able to refer our residents to that particular program?
Yeah,
Rent
we, will
recovery program?
we analyze the various programs that are out there, and we will see how we can get that information to the appropriate individuals.
Okay. Councilman Lutz, can you please tell us how you're preparing for the 4th of July?
I want to let the entire community know in Pico Rivera that there's two distinct types of fireworks. One is legal to be used, which are the safe and sane fireworks, and those are typically the ones that are out on the street corners that are for sale a couple days before 4th of July. Those are safe and sane, and those are legal in the city of Pico Rivera. Then you have the fireworks that are loud, obnoxious, the ones that scare our dogs, the ones that turn on car alarms. And those are typically the ones that come out of state, from New Mexico, from Arizona. Those are illegal in the city of Pico Rivera. And residents, regardless of age, utilizing these fireworks, if caught, will be fined $1,000. I encourage residents, if they actually see that type of situation occurring, not to confront the individuals, but to notify the authorities. And if there is ample time, then we can perhaps have them confronted and fined. In the meanwhile, the Sheriff's Department and the Safety Ad Hoc Committee that I chair, we're going to be doing public service announcements on social media, letting people know that, again, these illegal type of fireworks that are the loud fireworks and the skyrockets, it's a $1,000 fine if you're caught. So I just want to alert everybody that be wary of that. Don't buy these fireworks, because if you're caught, you will be fined. And Lieutenant Hutak and I, we're going to be partaking in a public service announcement, a series of them in the next few days. So I wanted to clarify that for the public.
Are we going to have that app available to identify illegal fireworks? Are we going to have that?
City Manager?
Yes, I'm going to be speaking to our IT department. I know there were some issues, but I will have an answer for council in the next couple of days.
That was a great tool. Okay. The last item, and again, I was able to read an arrest report where there was a burglary that occurred. Two individuals. We spotted them, and we chased them throughout the city, jumping on roofs and everything else, and having the helicopter and so on. They were charged, and in a few hours they were let go. Now, I understand that it's the existing policy, but it's a situation that I understand just from my experience in terms of juvenile justice and so on, is that 90% of the crimes are done by the same individuals. So the likelihood is that those two burglars are going to be doing something else, in this city here. Now, I know that, this is going to be a tough challenge, But, in my discussions with, the judges and so on around the area, is, they're talking about the fact that the cities almost have to prepare themselves to develop some kind of system, okay? Because the stats are there. When an adult or when a juvenile commits a crime and isn't under supervision, isn't under, probation officer or so, they are going to return the crime. The recidivism rate is just, automatic. So it is required that they have some type of supervision and so on. So, Councilman Lutz, I know that you're busier than heck and so on, but please have in the back of your mind that we're going to have to address this thing.
I want to add something here. There is a particular brand of cameras that are called Ring. And Ring allows residents to access their neighbor's Ring cameras. And if you have, say, 3 or 4 Ring cameras on one city block, and all residents are in agreement to share their footage with each other, they can catch someone in the act committing a crime, possibly capture license plate, and essentially capture the footage. Then it could be taken to the sheriff's department, and that person or individuals could be apprehended. So in the upcoming months, when we actually open up the city and the state opens up 100%, I'm going to be reaching out to the community so that we can regather our community watch groups in the north, in the center, and the south of the neighborhoods and discuss the options of unifying the forces of all the community members and having security cameras, because that does help prevent crime in our neighborhood.
Mr. City Manager, we've already talked about that, haven't we? What was your plan for Ring?
Yeah, we reached out to the Ring Company at the time. We were looking at different programs, how Prime could be a participant in that. So it's still something that we need to continue to look into.
And we also, talked about any fines that were from illegal fireworks would go to, purchasing Ring for our residents.
Yes, that would be the goal, that we collect the funds and distribute these cameras in areas that have potentially the highest numbers of crime.
And I just want to remind you that in a survey that was taken a while back ago, the priorities that the residents had in terms of our service was, number one, the financial stability of the city, and number 2 was public safety, and number 3 was the quality of service. Okay, so this is one of the top items that we have to think about. That's my end right there. Council, closed session?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Members of the City Council, we have only one item for closed session under conference with labor negotiators. It's appropriate to recess in closed session at this time.